I grew up in a small town where nothing ever happened, until the summer we found the house at the end of Hilltop Road. It stood far from other homes, hidden by trees, as though it didn't want to be found. The kids at school whispered it was haunted. They said a family died there in a fire, their spirits never leaving. My friends, Kevin and Sarah, thought it would be fun to check it out. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but I didn't want to be the one to back out. So, one warm summer night, we packed flashlights, hopped on our bikes, and rode out to see for ourselves. The house was larger than I'd imagined, with broken windows and rotting wood. The front door hung slightly open, creaking in the breeze. We stood there, staring at it. "This is stupid," I muttered. "Let's just go." But Kevin grinned. "Come on, don't chicken out. It's just an old house." Before I could argue, he walked up the steps and pushed the door open. Sarah and I exchanged a nervous glance but followed him inside. The smell of mold and decay hit us immediately. The place looked like it had been abandoned for years, dust coated every surface, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. "This place is a dump," Sarah whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. Kevin shrugged. "Let's check upstairs." I didn't want to be left alone downstairs, so I followed them up the groaning staircase. The second floor was even darker, with just our flashlights to guide us. There were 3 rooms, 2 on the left, 1 on the right. Kevin headed to the largest one, and we trailed behind. The room was empty except for an old mirror leaning against the far wall. Its surface was coated in dust. "Spooky," Kevin joked, stepping toward the mirror. "Let's go," Sarah whispered. "I don't like this." Kevin ignored her and wiped the dust off the mirror. "Look at this thing. It's huge." I stared at Kevin's reflection, and something felt off. His face looked wrong, like it wasn't his. I stepped closer, and that's when I saw it, something dark in the corner of the room, moving behind his reflection. It was tall, with long, thin arms and legs, and its face, it didn't have one. "Kevin," I whispered, my voice trembling. "We need to leave. Now." He glanced at me, confused, but when he turned back to the mirror, he froze. His reflection was no longer moving. It just stood there, grinning, while Kevin's real face went pale. "What the hell?" Kevin started, but before he could finish, the thing in the mirror lunged at him. We screamed. Kevin stumbled back, crashing into us as we ran for the door. The mirror shattered behind us, the sound echoing through the house like a gunshot. We didn't stop running until we were outside, gasping for breath. The house loomed behind us, silent and dark, but something had changed. The air felt heavier, like it was pressing down on us. "What was that?" Sarah cried, her voice shaking. Kevin just stared at the house, pale and sweating. "I don't know," he whispered. "But we need to leave." We got on our bikes and pedaled as fast as we could, not stopping until we were back in town under the safety of the streetlights. None of us spoke the whole way home. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that thing in the mirror. The next day, I called Sarah. She was just as freaked out as I was, and we agreed to keep quiet about what happened. But when I tried to call Kevin, he didn't answer. I biked over to his house, but his mom said he wasn't feeling well and was staying in his room. A few days passed, and Kevin still hadn't come out. His mom said he was sick, wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping. I went by again, hoping to talk to him, but there was no response when I knocked on his door. I could hear something, though, whispering. It was soft, barely audible, coming from inside the room. "Kevin?" I called. "Are you okay?" The whispering stopped, and for a moment, there was only silence. Then, in a voice that didn't sound like Kevin's, I heard him say, "Come in." I didn't. I ran home instead. Kevin's family moved away a few weeks later, but I know he didn't go with them. Sometimes, late at night, I hear that whispering, faint but persistent. And when I look in the mirror, I see something standing behind me, smiling.